Welcome to Grace Notes, broadcast live on tape from Town Hall in beautiful downtown Yorktown with Supervisor Michael Grace, and I'm Bruce Apar of Chase Media Group. Quickly, we're just going to tell you that coming up on February 9th is Yorktown High School Band Valentine's Swing Dance and Concert. That should be interesting. And then we mentioned last show, we'll mention it again, T-Town's Hudson River Eagle Fest, because that is a very big annual event. Being a wannabe actor, I want to mention on Sunday, February 10th at the Hart Library, the M&M Production Acting Company is putting on God of Carnage, which is an award-winning play. And I know all the 4 people in it. They're very good, so you might want to catch that. And February 15th is the Teen Center second annual Girls Only Night, so I guess we won't be at that. And then February 18th is President's Day, and all the town offices are closed, right, on Monday, February 18th.
Yeah. I never pay much attention.
Right.
I'm here no matter what.
You're working
so
anyhow, so right, I guess it doesn't matter. And really, for now, that's about it, because we'll be doing more shows before other events are coming up.
Yeah, and I should mention the town hall is closed, I think, tomorrow and Friday for records management.
Oh, for records. Okay. So everybody, please take note, February 7 and 8, Thursday and Friday, Town Hall will be closed. So you can do catch-up, right, on...
Well, you have to...
Sort of inventory controls.
And records management.
Right.
It's just,
yeah. But you'll still be here.
I'll still be here.
Right. So what are we going to talk about, Supervisor?
Well,
I know there's been some things going on at the town board meeting you just had, right?
It's we let our secret out before the meeting, before the show.
Right.
We were thinking, where are we and what should we talk about? But there's always a lot going on. One of the things that we always mention at the beginning of the show is what the performing art activities that go on in town, and one of the things that one of the new initiatives this year. It's been we've discussed it.
Talked about it, yeah.
And wanting to move ahead on it is really to a arts council board for the town of Yorktown, especially in light of the fact that the Paramount went through some issues, and we wish Paramount Theater very well, and hopefully a quick resurrection.
Right.
But it brings up the point that the town of Yorktown also has an arts venue, which is the Yorktown Stage at the YCC, and we're hoping to invigorate and enliven the performing arts in the town of Yorktown, and maybe in conjunction with the restaurants, et cetera. And before we got on the air, we were all kind of chit-chatting about us and Tom, the cameraman, who's now back in the in his office down there, but about all the incredible talent that's within the town of Yorktown that you would never think about or never know. Tom had mentioned James Wynn, who was the IBM scientist that helped develop LASIK surgery out of the Watson Research Center, which has a number of great technological innovations to its credit.
Right, and he was just honored.
By the president. And
by the president.
Yeah. And it was the IBM computer Watson that was on the Jeopardy was named after Watson Research Center. But we have it from the very the high-end technological innovations to. We have Yorktown's Jessica Lynn, who's going to break through in the music industry. It's sort of a country pop, I guess, genre for her, which is going to debut her album at the winery
on Saturday, February 9th, a CD release party, as they call it. Yeah.
And one of the things that we can say is that the winery has also become kind of northern Westchester, Putnam County mecca for real talent.
And we have a sitting town justice who performs at the winery, Judge Lagonia.
With Daisy Joplin, who's a violinist of extraordinaire. So there's an enormous amount of talent in these parts. We were just also discussing that in our midst is the famous Barbara Koppel, who is a You know more about it
A
than
famous documentary filmmaker, yeah.
I do. Yeah.
She's won 2 Oscars, she's won Emmys, she's done things for ESPN and HBO, and very well known in the film world for her groundbreaking documentary work. And then I didn't even realize till you told me that she lives right here in Yorktown.
Yeah. And so, and it was interesting because after I met her, and I'm not the Kaji of performing arts, so a bit ignorant of her.
Well, don't you have to tap dance in your?
But it's Cabin Creek Films,
Right.
And as you say, she's a award-winning documentary filmmaker,
Right.
And we have a Yorktown stage which we were looking to
Put in a screen and projector,
right.
Show
And,
movies,
yeah. So and to showcase what is and there's a lot to be said to have a community
right.
have a reputation for performing arts.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So and hopefully, so who's the gentleman that we met on I think I'm losing my mind here. Is it Tuesday morning at the Yorktown Organizations United meeting from I think it was Lakeland Educational Foundation?
Mike Sitzer. Mike Sitzer, yeah. Great guy, Mike, yeah.
Who's also interested in...
Right, in helping out with the Arts Council, yes. No, and that's the thing. When you mention this to people, the concept, that we're looking to push forward, they want to jump on board. I mean, obviously, needless to say, Barry Liebman, who's done a tremendous job running Yorktown Stage, is very excited about the prospects.
Yeah, and Tom
Ianakari, who's been great with that. You have Bill Morris, who's one of the organizers of the New Yorktown Alumni Association that had that benefit last year at Yorktown Stage. And there's all these graduates of Yorktown High School, and Lakeland High School, who are musicians and still play music, and they want to keep that going, and they want to benefit, tying back into Younited, they want to benefit as they perform local charities.
Right, and so we're we want to move, keep moving on, on that front. So hopefully, that will be one of the initiatives. Hopefully, we can really make some progress over the next couple of months.
Yeah.
And also with the Yorktown Organizations United, which we had the meetings last year, which were very well received and attended. So we're hoping to move forward with that.
The steering committee.
With the steering committee to bring uplift the charitable, civic, and volunteer organizations within the town. Hopefully, provide some funding for them.
Right. And as you were saying,
help them with the administrative expenses, et cetera, and also provide new sources of revenue for them.
Right. The other really major example of how people in Yorktown, really like to promote the arts and to, give the locals something, to attend that's really unique to this town is the Lions concerts during the summer. And people, may not realize because they're free and they may not realize how costly that is to put on for the Lions and how they have to get sponsorship. So I know you were saying that's another way that Younited possibly, through attracting funding from larger businesses and even national corporations can help fund those kinds of events, right? It shouldn't just be on the Lions.
Right. I mean, we love to have a vibrant performing arts community within Yorktown. And what's remarkable is the amount of talent that is just very local.
Right.
And to be able to give it a venue to showcase itself, to be able to provide some funding other than, from outside sources other than, so in order to let it thrive. And then the spillover is obviously that you'll, local businesses will benefit by bringing and attracting people into the town. So the idea between Yorktown Organizations United, the Arts Council, and also working very closely with the Chamber, is that we want to make Yorktown a place that is very attractive for investment.
Right.
And we have made some headway with that over the last year. So we've had a lot of businesses that have opened.
Right.
And the more that do, the greater the critical mass is created, the more that are attracted.
Right.
It's not businesses don't necessarily fear their competition. They want their
Yeah, that's
competition
right.
because it makes them all better.
Right.
As for instance, at the A&P Plaza, we've had now Jay's Wayback Burger open up. We had
Yeah.
Salsa Fresca open up.
Right.
We had
Himala-
Love and Spoonful open up. We've had the Himalaya
Himalaya
restaurant
yes. Right.
open up. So that corner is really becoming a really nice, a destination place. So you can go there and basically there's anything that your palate may desire available to you, from burgers to Indian food to Italian food at Piatto Grill,
Right.
to Mexican food at the Salsa Fresca. So
And if I'm not mistaken, wasn't where the Froyo place is, or the burger place, wasn't that a Weight Watchers? I was going to say they could have kept Weight Watchers, so you go from one to the other.
but it's good. I mean, that's what you need. You need to create the critical mass.
Right.
And the more you create the feeling of Yorktown being a destination area,
Right.
the more you're going to be able to do that. So
It feeds on itself.
right.
Yeah.
And the trick to filling up the empty storefronts, so to speak, is exactly that.
Right.
So it's not just my administration's tried very hard to change the tone of town government vis-a-vis the business community.
Right.
And I think we've done a fairly good job with it. So we're being receptive. We want people to come in. We're doing what we can to expedite approvals, to make opening a business in Yorktown as less as least expensive as it can possibly be. Giving them support in any which way we can. But the other part of it is also creating the atmosphere that this is a town that you want to open up a business with, and so hand in hand with that, it's not just reforming or re-examining the regulatory infrastructure under which some businesses open and operate, but it's also to create the energy in the town, which we made some strides in. The holiday parade brought a lot of enthusiasm in. We have events like the Relay for Life, which had their kickoff meeting this week. That brings a lot of energy. That event brings a lot of energy to the town, and the Yorktown Street Fair brings a lot of energy to the town. Community Day will as well.
Right.
So you want to do all these other things that are very, very important.
Right.
And I think equally important is to create and to tap into this great reservoir of performing arts talent that we have in our own town.
Right.
So in that regard, we're hopefully going to get this off the ground. We're going to talk to obviously Barry, who runs the stage.
Yep.
We're looking into seeing if we can procure or get donated to us some movie equipment.
Right.
So that we can begin to do different things with the stage and that venue. We also are going to look into whether you get maybe wine or beer to be served there in a concession.
Right.
So that you can have a dinner, movie night, dinner, play night, or whatever night, and
then having those types of resources too lends itself to fundraising events. I mean, that's the thing, right?
Right, and it all starts to work together.
Right.
And the thing is, I always try to look at the town as you want the town in and of itself to be self-sustaining in every respect. I don't want to look to county government. I don't want to look to state government. I don't want to look to be at the mercy of third parties that may or may decide to smile on you that day you need them. So the thing is, you have to be self-sustaining in every respect. So. And that really makes for a good town. So because if you approach it with that attitude, you want to make sure that all the pieces of the puzzle to make a really good town are there, and you're supporting them. So it's not just it's not just we have a great parks and rec system.
Yep.
We have a lot of great open space, but we have to both inventory it, audit it, make sure that we're maximizing the uses of them, either be for passive recreation, active recreation, and properly manage them. So, and we have some sites that we really have to examine. So there's that parts of it. We have great trails. We have bike trails. We have the Holland Sporting Club property up right on Mohegan Lake. So you try to provide that component, and Yorktown is abundant in that component. Yeah. We have the legacy fields, we have the trailways, we have the bridge over the pedestrian bridge over the Taconic, which has created a trailway. So you want that. You want a vibrant local economy. You want a vibrant local outlet for performing arts, and we have a lot of people that contribute to that, have done that. We have the Teen Center, we have the open mic night, we have the Yorktown stage. They put on great performances. We have the Yorktown the High School, the Evening of Dance, which is absolutely incredible. So it's a matter, and if we can tap into what's already there, and is looking for expression, and looking for venues, and looking for arenas to be put on display. I think we should move in that direction because it benefits everyone, and so we have this great resource which most communities don't have, and to put it to really good use would be a great thing. And I think it's also it's bringing in people with new ideas and different forms of entertainment, and it would be a great thing for the town. We can really become a destination spot for people looking for something to do on a weekend. To know that there's always something there in Yorktown to do.
And which, by the way, a good model for that Elise and I discovered last summer is Beacon. Beacon is really becoming an arts hub north of us. What is it? Maybe it's actually only 45 miles north of us. And then during the summertime, they have, I think it's second Saturday when we went. They call it second Saturdays of the month, where they have outdoor music, people playing music outdoors. They have a lot of art galleries. They open their doors, which Peekskill does too. Peekskill does all of the same type of thing. But we can offer something similar to Peekskill or Beacon, but still different, right?
No, and there is it's the level of talent is impressive in Yorktown. It really is. So,
and as you've talked about, I know you want to just embellish this in various ways through some civil engineering, but the Heights area especially is very walkable. You could have people playing music outdoors and have people walking along Commerce Street. I mean,
we're looking to. I mean, one of the things we're moving towards again is the relocation and relocation of the highway garage and reclamation of that property. It would connect the Railroad Park with the Patriot Park. There was also some thoughts of putting in a permanent bandstand, go down towards Patriot Park, so from Jack DeVito Field to Patriot Park, you really have a linear park with, and then hopefully that will spur the revitalization of the Kear Street area, Underhill by Town Hall, and I know I get hounded a lot about the old Food Emporium site. Well, we hope that with all these things, we can also attract real investment into that shopping center as well, reinvestment back into that shopping center. The thing is, it's the remarkable thing about, and what people have to understand is, if you have a kind of a town that's downtrodden and empty stores, you would think that investors would look at it and say, well, maybe I can get into there cheaper. The rents will be cheaper. It's just no. Business owners are looking. They'd rather pay more expensive rent to be in a place that has action than a place that they have to try to bootstrap back up into having some vitality. So the important thing to remember is that in order to get that, you have to work on all fronts to get the ball rolling. And I think once you start to do that, it can happen very quickly. And I think just with the change in administration and the change in tone of the town, we're seeing some benefits of that. And so that word gets out very quickly. So now we are seeing people that their interests are being piqued, and they are taking a look at Yorktown, and they are taking a look at it as a place to really invest in. because it's got so many great qualities. It's just really, blowing the dust off of them and marketing Yorktown, so to speak.
And shouldn't Costco, once it's here, be a magnet for that? I mean, it wasn't an accident they picked this location. I mean, and that says
No, the
something, too.
demographics are good, and Costco, unfortunately, it's got a strong headwind, and I don't, in a lot of respects, I respect the issues that are being raised and the questions that are being raised. They should be.
Right.
In order to do a really good project that will, really be positive over the real long term, you have to look at it, take a very serious and hard look at all the issues that are raised. The bottom line with the Costco site, it is a site that has already been improved. It's not a new development; it's a redevelopment of the site. And the oldest development that's on the site is completely dilapidated. It's a hotel that's falling down. It's a gas station that used to be there. It's some old warehousing. So that site's not contributing anything to the community at this point. It's just not. It's if anything, it's detracting.
Detracting, yeah. Yes.
So, and the other point to be made about Costco, it's funny when I do talk to people about it, and they say, well, they think of it as this mammoth box that's coming in.
Right.
And just to put it into perspective, I try to put it into perspective to people. If it's 150,000 square feet, it's 1/10 the size of the development at the Cortland Town Center, which is over 1 million square feet of retail space. The BJ's shopping plaza may be approximately, I don't know, I think they're probably about 200,000 square feet. I think the BJ's itself is about 60 to 80, and the rest of the buildings are probably somewhere double that. So you're looking at about, somewhere over 200. If you look in the Heights area between Kmart, the Food Emporium, and the ancillary stores to those two anchor stores, there's a lot more than 150,000 square feet there. I think the Food Emporium is 80,000 square feet itself, which makes its reoccupation a little difficult because it's that size that is just a little bit too big for some and too small for others.
Right.
So it's funny when you examine the retail market. Size matters, and sometimes it's too small, sometimes it's too big. But as for instance, I'll diverge a little bit. The mall, I think, is 500,000 square feet for a mall. Very small.
Small, yeah, that's right.
It's too big for a strip mall, too big for a mall. And malls, mall now are Carousel Mall in Syracuse, the Palisades Mall in Nyack. Right. Malls aren't 500,000 square feet. Anymore.
They
are 1.5 million square feet, or multiples of that. So the formula, the retail formula, has changed a little bit. So, but going back to what I was saying, it's the Yorktown Green between Kmart, Food Emporium, and the ancillary stores. You're talking about over 200,000, maybe 250, maybe 300,000 square feet of retail space. So that's double the size of Costco. Right. And in terms, and then you have, you have Turco's, et cetera. Just to put it in perspective, everybody talks about traffic. Well, look at the retail space just within that, little bit that's in Yorktown Heights, and we're not being swallowed up by traffic.
Right.
So adding 150,000 square feet to what is going to be an improved state right-of-way of 5 lanes or whatever it is, it shouldn't have a substantial impact on traffic.
Right.
But it's always putting these things in. It's giving the perspective on it. I don't think it's Costco isn't the panacea for all our problems, but it's not. The sky's not going to fall because it's coming into town as well. What it will do, I think, is at least send a message that Yorktown is in the market to see active and good development.
Right, investments.
Investments, and it's not to change the essential character of Yorktown. It really is to redevelop those areas which are again dilapidated or underused.
But even that, by the way, we've talked about this on other shows. I think very recently on the last couple of shows, and that word came up quite a lot by people who, as you say, had concerns about Costco or who were outright opposed to Costco, are opposed to Costco still, and they kept talking about the character of the town. Well, my gosh, look at some of the buildings around here if you're talking about the character of the town, because we've talked about this. A lot of the buildings, it looks like, in some ways, a horse designed by committee. There's no uniformity to them. When I was just up in New Paltz with my daughter to look at SUNY New Paltz for her master's, I immediately noticed when we drove into town how their zoning has kept the look of the town, very uniform and very appealing cosmetically.
Yeah.
It's all of a piece, and that, as you know, that takes a lot of doing. It doesn't just happen by itself.
Well, I mean, you can drive into any town and you can basically pick the decade in which it was predominantly developed.
Right.
So you go to certain communities, you say, look, this is, to me, the best architecture was always just before the turn of the century. So late 1800s, early 1900s, really was the height of American architecture as far as I'm concerned. Residential and commercial. If you come into Yorktown, is distinctively a 60s, 1970s flavor.
Yeah, right.
Which is probably, in my opinion, the nadir of architecture.
Right.
Because it becomes...
Because it's not timeless, it's trendy.
Yeah.
It's not trendy now, it was trendy then.
Right. It's block.
Right, yes. Right.
Block construction, trussel roofs, which are flat.
Right.
And in particular to Yorktown, some shade of brown. That's essentially it.
Right.
I mean, if you want to describe Yorktown architecture, that's it. It's cinder block, flat roofs, and some shade of brown.
Well, the buildings are like snowflakes. No two would look alike.
But there have been attempts in town to go towards the neoclassic architecture, which was. Came into vogue probably in the 80s, which is trying to replicate what I consider the height of American architecture, which is that late 80s, early 90s, which is the Commons area.
Right.
So more colonial looking in appearance. I think presently there's a lot of good architecture because we've understood in hindsight that the trendy fails, and that really, to put classical architectural elements in buildings really is what gives them longevity. Right. So, can we in Yorktown rectify the sins of the past? I think we can.
Yes, sure.
But you have to provide incentives for redevelopment. Yorktown also very telling. Developed predominantly in the age of the auto.
Right.
Because it wasn't, the smaller towns, downtowns were created with mixed uses, residential and commercial, and pedestrian pathways, because you didn't have cars. So the turn of the century, in 1910, 20, whatever, 30, cars weren't, you still needed sidewalks, and you still needed to be close to where you worked and where you lived and where you shopped. So you had a lot of mixed uses and pedestrian, and really great cities all over the world, do that, and also create some historical elements, maintain them historical elements. You can tell a city that's either, Yorktown, kind of an example that sidewalks weren't important, pedestrian access wasn't important. We put all the residents over here, the commercial over there. You had to drive, and then the commercial was spread out between big parking lots, and so you had to drive from one, So there are opportunities for us to change that character.
And you know what actually, the hamlet that is a notable exception to what we're talking about is Shrub Oak, especially that East Main Street stretch of Shrub Oak where the Hart Library is. I mean, Hollywood could film a turn of the century movie there without changing too much.
Right,
Right.
right. But that's that. But again, it's all turn of the century architecture that was
beautiful,
there that
yeah.
remained in place. That was the main street. It had mixed uses, which
Right.
were some of them that have
Yes.
remained.
Right.
It has all those elements. You can tell it was a
Yeah.
community within it was a self-sufficient community,
Right.
and luckily it wasn't plowed under to create the new Route 6, which circumvents that
Right.
old East Main Street. But you have, downtown Yorktown did have a lot of turn-of-the-century architecture, which was collapsing, or urban renewal finally decided to wipe out.
Right.
But I've always thought that it's kind of odd. It's the Yorktown Green always reminds me of the old Western movies where they get attacked by the Indians and they form the circle of wagons, circle of wagons.
Right.
Everything's on the inside, and
Right.
and it's kind of this uninviting
Right.
facade to the outside. So driving down 118 from Underhill Avenue to 202 is always I got to look at the back of the back of
right.
buildings.
Yeah.
And at one point I guess they planned for proper screening, vegetative screening, the back of the awfully the ugly back of the buildings, but it
Right.
it's either hasn't been maintained or it's overgrown or undergrown or whatever. Interestingly enough, when they redid the Yorktown Green Shopping Center under Nancy Elliott's administration when I was town attorney, I think they did a marvelous job, because if you go on into the inside, and especially during the summertime and the fall, there is they've got plantings in there and trees that really I think they did a marvelous job in re-landscaping and creating the parking lot. So it is possible to do.
Right.
But you need to incentivize it. You need to create the investment. You need to create, as well. We don't know something like Costco. There was one plan before for, I think these smaller stores to come in.
Yeah, that's right.
Right,
There was.
right.
Yeah. Right.
And unfortunately, that caught a big headwind in itself, and there was a lot of discussion. So that disappeared.
Right.
You can't dictate who or what private investors are going to come into your town. So you sometimes you have to take what comes there.
Right.
And it's interesting. There's this old adage in real estate. The first offer is probably the best one.
Right.
Usually the guy that holds out says no. Usually the deal goes south, and you never get back to that first offer. So
Right.
you have to be careful about that. Costco portends to be a very good development, and they will contribute, I think, very nicely to the town.
Right.
So we'll hopefully we'll move those things along. But it's again you have to take this multifaceted approach towards revitalizing the town. You
Right.
can't do it. I can't just focus on rebuilding the commercial tax base. You also have to ensure that you have good housing.
Right.
You also want to ensure that that the social climate in Yorktown is conducive towards people wanting to invest in it.
Right.
And that's where the Yorktown Organizations United comes in.
Yeah.
Comes in with having to really market and get out in the forefront and
Right.
keep in the forefront all these civic, charitable, municipal,
Right.
volunteer organizations that are really part of the fabric of the town of Yorktown. Performing arts.
Right.
All these things are very, very important, and I think we'd be remiss as a local town government not to, stoke
Right.
the fires on
Yes.
in each one of these areas, and
Right.
I think when the local town government becomes insulated from all of that,
Right.
it says, well, that's really not our function, or this is not, we're bad.
Right.
You have to. It's a very important aspect of local government is to create. You need to create and promote the Yorktown brand.
Right.
And when you do that, you end up having a very vibrant, cohesive, community, which does rally around each other and for each other and for the So and I think if anything, that was the thing that has broken down over the last several
number of years. Yeah.
And
Right.
I'm always thinking, it may be a cultural, it may be a
Right.
cultural thing in the sense that, if you look, the turn of the century communities were tight knit. You had to be for a lot of different reasons,
Right.
and they formed. They didn't form under zoning laws. They formed
Right.
under how things functioned well and practically. When you got into zoning laws, you kind of arbitrarily decided this is the way it functions and
Right.
didn't. So you start to lose you lose the finger that you need to keep on the pulse of how things practically function.
Right. Right.
And then you have with the automobile, you don't even have to you don't have to worry about it that much. And I think we're finally realizing that no, it takes we can't compartmentalize things to the point
Right.
that we're not paying attention to what the other what really.
Well, I think the difference there is, one on one side is the cold mechanics, as you say, of the operations of the town, but then that can't be disconnected from the quality of life issues. I mean,
Right.
they have to work together and I think that's what we're coming into now much more is putting those two together.
Yeah, and it's funny. You come to these points in history, and I think we are reaching one where we have to re-examine the way we do business.
Well, priorities.
Yeah.
Right.
You can't just sit on your laurels and say, well, that's the way we've always done.
No, I used to tell staffs that saying we always did it this way is not a reason; it's an excuse.
Right. But it's funny. It's just it's getting into you're getting to these habits that
Right.
and it's good to examine why you're doing what you're doing, because there may be some validity to it. So often that validity, whatever the purpose was, has.
Yeah. Right.
I have this discussion all the time. We had the Navajo Fields on our
Right.
work session last night, and this is my constant banter with everyone is that, well, I don't care. If you're coming in with something and you really want to do it and it's innovative, it's creative, don't go to my town code and say, well, can I do it? What do I need to do? Because the majority of the town code was written 40 years ago.
Right.
30, 40 years ago. Right. And the thinking that went into it has some of it has validity, but a lot of it doesn't have any more validity.
Right.
And it's when you have administration say, well, this is the way we always do it, or this is the way we do it.
Right.
Why?
Right.
Why is it that you do it that way? Did you ever see? The laws were written or changed at a point in time for some reaction to something, or to promote something, or to prevent something. But they would. So you can't sit there on your laurels and say, well, this is what. Well, look through the code. The code says you need this many spaces, or this is the setback, or this is, and you get, and now you're cramming a square peg into a round hole. Doesn't work that way. So what I tell everybody is, don't. You got a piece of property. We know what the general zoning is of the property. It would be commercial, residential, or some mixed use, whatever it is. But don't get yourself. I mean, you have to pay a certain amount of homage to what's there on the books, because that gives us a standard.
Right.
But don't get wet. We're not wed to it, and especially not at this point, because a lot of this stuff is 30, 40 years old that doesn't apply anymore. The code requirements for the mall were written back in the 1970s. It's not the model for business today, or marketing, or the way they have to operate. So we're starting to throw it out and change it. Somebody says, "Well, you're just doing it for the mall." Well, yeah, but they are a part of this town. They're a big part of this town.
Right.
They're if I always have this it's this discussion. You can get if councilman gets a call. I got the pothole in front of my street. Well, we can fix it. They'll run out all over It's earth to make sure we get some asphalt into that pothole because
Right.
and it's a good thing to do, and it's
Right.
also now you have a happy resident, a voter, or whatever.
Right.
But when it comes to the developer that comes in, or the one who wants to redevelop his property, it's sort of like we
I
don't
know.
want
As if, right. I know. Right.
And I'm thinking, wait a second.
Right.
Why isn't
Right.
that? Why don't they get the same consideration? Why don't
Right.
they get the same courtesies as you would give somebody if you were fixing the pothole in front of
Right.
the house? And the point being is that you have to have a fluid approach to these things.
Right.
And then you start to get you get creative, imaginative, projects.
Solutions. And, right. Yeah. Well, I know, Supervisor, you have places to go and people to see. So, but this has been sort of an interesting trip in a way down memory lane, you might say. Going down memory lane to help plan the future in the right way. Right. So.
No, and the thing is, I think the hope is we had a busy year last year. A lot of it did focus on the operational aspects, the nuts and bolts aspects of the town. The bigger ideas, I like to say, the more visionary ideas, we did launch very early on.
Right.
Then they got downtrodden in trying to take care of the operational aspects of the town. But just want to, like it or not, we're going back to
move on
to the more visionary stuff, as I think is an important thing to do.
And we should mention that Yorktown Organizations United, as we are restarting it as we speak, has gotten a very nice and a very welcome boost by being joined at the hip with the Yorktown Chamber of Commerce, which goes back to all we're talking about is that, commerce has to work hand in hand with charity, and they benefit each other.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great. I mean, it's all across the board. I mean, we go to the Yorktown Organizations United meetings. We have the charitable organizations, but what's really nice to see.
Yeah.
Is the organizations that are connected with our schools. So it's the Foundations for Excellence,
Lakeland Education Foundation.
Yeah. So it's great to see them at the table. Because, I mean, that really is, and I think once we start putting all these pieces of the puzzle together, we get them to start to mesh.
Yeah. Take on a life of its own.
Yeah. I think it'll be great.
Yeah. And so that's Grace Notes.
And I want to thank you for your.
No, that's
all your
I get
effort
great,
and all those things.
Thanks for letting me participate. I get great enjoyment. It's very gratifying. It really is. And everybody, should do their share of community work or volunteerism as suits you. There's never enough volunteers. That goes without saying. And thank you for watching Grace Notes with Supervisor Michael Grace. I'm Bruce Aper of Chase Media Group. Be sure to watch us next time and every time because Yorktown is your town. Thank you.